Hey guys, what's happening? So I was just thinking, I'm not sure how many of you guys may be into God of War, but because we tend to share common interests within certain things, I kind of thought it would be interesting if we were to get into God of War Fallen God, which had released from Dark Horse Comics earlier this week. And it's also written by Chris Robertson, who wrote the adaptation to the 2018 game, and in that case, that series was more like a prequel to the story of 2018 God of War, so if you liked that one, chances are you were looking forward to this as well. So let's get into it. But first, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to catch the spills every week, and don't forget to hit that bell up top so you can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright. So before we dive in, first I want to say potential spoilers for any God of War game, which at least at the time of this video is up until God of War 2018, and I say that because I'll be making references to events both before and after this series, so let me just put that out there first. But aside from that, I do want to also mention like the 2018 comic series for God of War. That series had taken place not too long before the opening of the 2018 game, and in this case, Fallen God, it takes place right after God of War 3, and when this series concludes, it'll land right before your 2018 God of War comic series, which was the prequel to your 2018 God of War game. To where in that series, Atreus' mother, Faye, was still alive, and at a time where Kratos was still working on his rage issues, his family was then attacked by the Berserkers, who had used the bear totem to tap into the strength of a bear god. But in this case, we're taking a step even further back, and it's here where we pick up after the conclusion of God of War 3, which had ended with Kratos destroying his father Zeus with his bare hands, but also with him discovering his possession of the power of hope, which Athena had came back to get after Kratos had killed Zeus. Kratos had released that power into the world, denying it from Athena, and doing so by impaling himself with the blade of Olympus. But after this had happened, and with Kratos not dying, he had then immediately after begun to send himself into exile. And with doing this, Kratos just wanted to get as far away from Olympus, from Sparta, and from his past, and find a peace that he couldn't find in death. And one of the first things that he did going into exile was cast the Blades of Chaos off of a cliff into the ocean, which at this point there was plenty of, after killing Poseidon. But within this attempt for self-exile, Kratos retreated into darkness within a dark cave, hoping that here he can find the closest approximation to what he would consider to be a peaceful death, or at least the closest thing to it. But with coming here, the Blades of Chaos, they still return to him. And for Kratos, finding this peace and moving forward, he believes would nearly be impossible without getting rid of this part of his past. With their history from Ares, the previous God of War, who had also tricked Kratos within his own rage and bloodlust to kill his wife and daughter. Which is why for Kratos, getting rid of these blades is a crucial part for him in the process of finding solitude and finding peace, which is why he then attempts to lose them again by setting sail and casting them into the depths of the sea in hopes that this time they would never return from the bottom of the ocean. But after his second attempt of trying to discard the blades within the depths of the ocean, he then continues his journey to find a new terrain which he would consider to be suitable for rest. But here's the interesting thing about his travels, and the question of is his journey led by free will versus circumstance causing him to walk into his destiny. Because for one, we're not told how long it's been since he casted the blades into the ocean, but from that time till now, we're given the idea of what appears to be Kratos traveling from one point to the next led by choice, which is the choice to find peace and rest and isolation. But even with this happening, there's this underlying question of is this journey within itself really led by him making a choice? Because even now at this point, with finding a new place that he chose, which is also a land that is foreign to him, but he intentionally came here because he was trying to move directionally away from the location of his past, and that's what drove Kratos to toss the blades in the ocean, which then drove him through the harsh lands to find a place to rest his head. And when he found that place to rest his head, the blades then reappeared, and when they reappeared, for him this was then a sign that it's time to move again. And with this happening, like to Kratos, there's just the frustration of trying to get rid of these blades and him trying to find isolation, but with him being too focused on his frustration and focused on the idea of getting further and further away, he doesn't realize that this journey in a grander scope is leading him more so on a specific path, which in the grand scope is destiny once again guiding his footsteps and leading Kratos on a journey which he believes to be of his free will. But as I mentioned earlier, like with the idea of Kratos losing track of time, this then lines up with the idea of him traveling where destiny wants him to be and when destiny wants him to be there. Because at this point, Kratos has now traveled to a land that is unfamiliar, which for him, like at a first look, it just intrigues him at this point that he's found people. And especially after him previously killing Poseidon and having a majority of the world flooded, which then took out so many people. And from then till now throughout his journey, this is the first time that he's finding civilization. But also with him finding these people, he then investigates because he senses something here that's familiar. And in this case, the thing that is familiar is these people looking at him and trembling in fear. And the reason why when he arrives here that these people are afraid of him is because the people here, even in this far off land, they know the stories of the ghosts of Sparta. And this is one of the things that plays into the idea of the decisions that Kratos had made and the actions that he had taken. They have spread out to affect the world in its entirety. And throughout however long this may have been, these stories were passed down and people know of his history. But it's also in this land where he comes across a prophet who tells Kratos that destiny has led him here to the land of Pharaohs at this specific time, which is also close to their time of need. But for Kratos, he's not trying to hear any of this, because in his case, he believes that he's traveling of his own free will, and he's perhaps suffering a bit from destiny exhaustion at this point. And for that reason, he doesn't want to hear from this prophet about his new destiny, so he turns the prophet away, not realizing that the actions he had taken prior to this point, they have led him to the land of Pharaohs, because there is more that destiny requires of him in this land at this time. But as Kratos turns his back on this prophet, the prophet then tells him that not even Kratos, the ghost of Sparta, the god of war, that not even he can escape his destiny, no matter how far he goes or how fast he runs. But after leaving that prophet and the town, Kratos then travels through the different terrains of the local area, and it takes him through harsh deserts, through steep mountains, to where he's once again looking for a place of rest and isolation. And even throughout this time that he's roaming around, once again he loses track of the days and nights, which then lead him to the next area where he can finally find water. But even when he gets there, he's spoken to by the wildlife, who then tell him the same thing that he was told by the prophet, which was more or less along the lines of it's time to stop running and to embrace your destiny. But this was also along the lines of Kratos having his first sign of seeing that all creatures and all things, they're all subject to a purpose, no matter how powerful or how great or how small, and every creature must serve its purpose, as so it is written. But even so, again, in going in what appears to be months without sleep, Kratos then dozes off and he wakes up to the blades once again, which this time takes him closer to what appears to be the specific destination that destiny wants him at this point in time. But for Kratos, who once again is much younger and much closer to the years of his rage, and in his case, at this time he's aware that something is causing the blades to reappear, but from his perspective he sees it as a repetitive torment rather than what it truly is, which is the blades reappearing in every place that he finds comfort. But with doing so, for Kratos, it's a tool of direction, and it's the combination of the blades appearing and his desire for isolation, and even the details of like the variety of the terrain of the land, which are all subject to what is written, and they're all working together to order his steps to the specific place where destiny wants him to be. Because everything serves its purpose. Because with Kratos being pushed by frustration and pulled by the idea of finding rest in isolation, which is the destination that he wants, but also like unknowingly along this path, he still finds the things that he truly needs. And because of that, time and time again, he finds water to drink, he finds food to eat, and he's fueled along the way by his determination not to quit and not to surrender. But also with this happening, like in a way, like along with destiny guiding him, that also like the hope that he had taken from Pandora's box and released into the world, that it's perhaps playing a role like in a small way. And like maybe it is, or maybe that concept is just totally thrown out the window, but it's something that crossed my mind just kind of going through this. But at this point in time with Kratos reaching another spot which he's found suitable for rest, he then finds a bird that starts talking to him, and similar to before, he believes that he's just losing his mind. And because he's lacked so much rest, he believes that this whole thing of the blades reappearing and him running into creatures that are talking, that it's all just a product of him losing his mind. But as we know, that's not the case, and all of these elements are very real. But this time, unlike before, he responds to the creature and he poses the question like, when will he find this place that he's looking for, that he can finally find this rest? And when he does this, it tells him that no matter which direction he goes, that his destiny is in that destination. And because of that, like when he reaches the place to where he can go no further and he arrives in that location, that is the place that he needs to be. which in translation for Kratos, like exhaustion is the brake pedal. And at this time when he's arrived here, he's come exactly to that place. He grows weary, he passes out, which also means that at this time he's arrived at the location of which he's been guided to under the illusion more or less of free will, but this is exactly the place and time where destiny wants him to be. But we'll have to wait to the next issue to find out what that purpose is here in the land of Pharaohs. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below to where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let me know if you guys want to continue the God of War Fallen God playlist, because depending on your feedback, we can finish this one and then move forward into the 2018 series. And if you want, after that, we can then circle back to some of the DC issues. But I'll leave that up to you guys. But let me know by leaving a like and sharing your thoughts in the comments here or over on Discord, and that way I'll know which direction you guys want to go. But with that said, that's it for now, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.